Hi, welcome. What are we doing today? Today we will be building this Google landing page from scratch. When you go to google.com, the page that you see that has the beautiful Google logo, the search box, we will be building it from scratch using HTML and CSS and maybe JavaScript later on to implement the search. So let's just get right into it. So on my desktop I have a folder called YouTube projects. So within that folder I am going to create another folder that I'm going to call Google clone. Okay, so I will go into Google clone and I'll open up my VS Code there. So Google clone will be the folder that will house our project. Okay, so in Google clone here, I am going to create an index.html as an entry file for our project. If you're new to HTML and CSS, basically this is when you create an HTML file, you give it an extension of .html to tell the system that, hey, this is an HTML file. We'll use a shortcut to create my HTML skeleton. Now again, if you're new to HTML, a web page is basically made up of, so first of all, before I go into that, you might have seen my text auto format. It's because I have auto formatting set on in my VS Code, and I use Prettier for formatting, but that's not what we are looking at today. We are building this from scratch. So an HTML page is made up of the HTML opening tag and then the HTML closing tag. So we'll expand this, and then an HTML page is made up of the head and then the body. Now everything that you see here on the page, that's the body. So all this content, we will be putting it in between the body tags, the opening body tag and the closing. And then any metadata about your web page is what you put in the head. So when I look at this page, what do I see? I see this text, Google. So what I'm going to do is, I'll create an H1 and say Google. I see a little box where you can search. Okay, so in this box I will, that box is normally called an input. Is an input. In most cases it's an input. Sometimes it could be a text area etc, but this is an input, and it's of type text because we will type text there. So I'm going to save my page for now, and look, what do I have here? So what I'm going to do is I want us to see what we've done so far. So I'm going to open my index.html. So the page, this is what we have. We have that H1 Google and then that input where we can type whatever we want to search for. Now when I inspect, what do I see? When I go to elements here, you can see this is the code that I've just written, the head, the body, the H1, this is what I've just written. Okay, now let's go back to our inspiration. So you have, up here you have, this to me looks like a navigation. So you can navigate between Gmail, images, you have a button here, and then another button here. So let's add this navigation. Now in my body above Google, this Google text. Now remember, in HTML, elements are displayed in the order they are in your HTML, okay? So up here, what I want to do is I'm going to create an unordered list. So list, and then I'll have a list item, li. Now this list item, the very first one is the text there, or the content is Gmail. Then I will have another list item, images. Then I have another list item there. I don't know, it looks like a button. We'll figure that button out. Then I have another list item here. This list item is a button. So in between this list item, you see I'm nesting another element called a button, and I'm calling it sign in. Save. Come to what I have, refresh. This is what I have so far. Looking good. We're getting there. We probably cannot ask for a job at Google yet, but we are getting there. I am just checking my console to see if I have any complaints. No complaints. So we are getting there. Now, I have a couple of buttons here. Google search. I'm feeling lucky. So I can come and add those buttons. So this button says Google search. This other button says I am feeling lucky. Okay, come here, refresh. Boom, there you go. I have my buttons. Okay. Then we have this liquid text here. So for this text, what I can do is I can create it as a paragraph or anything really. You can create this text as anything. So for now, I'll make it a p tag, paragraph tag, and then I'll put content. Okay, so yeah, and then down here, this to me looks like a footer. So what I can do is I can create a footer here, and then within my footer I can add all of this content. So this could be, you can make it anything. I could make that I could also just make it a paragraph for now to show the country, about advertising. This to me also looks like an unordered list. So within my footer, now I can house this in a div. Okay, so we'll see why I'm doing that later on. Okay, so in my div, so basically divs are like, imagine divs are like boxes. Okay, they're like these boxes that you can use to group your items together. And then this looks like a list item. So I have an unordered list. So within this I can have my list items, advertising, so I can have here about, this is advertising. Copy these elements. So here I have business, and then how search works. Okay. Yeah, I can do the same for this list. Okay. But I mean, you get the point of it. So for now, if I come back here, what do I have? Boom. We have, we have, this the Google page. This is a Google landing page. Like, this is the code of the Google landing page. Okay. So let's start styling it so that it can look like this. But basically, I think for the most part we have the HTML sorted. Okay, let's start styling. Now what I'm going to do is so there are many ways to add CSS to your web page. You could add CSS here, in the head, by creating a style tag, having a style tag, but I don't like to do that. So what I'm going to do instead is I am going to create a style.css, basically a style sheet. And then what I'm going to come here, I'm going to link it. Now, in my VS Code, I have an extension that is helping me with autocomplete. Probably VS Code these days comes with autocomplete, like for HTML and CSS. So this is how you link. So the relationship is style sheet, and then the link, the page, it's cancel. Okay, we don't have a file because I called mine styles. You can call your file whatever you want, Google styles, whatever. So what I'm going to do is, I feel like this is the most exciting part, this middle part. So how about we start by styling that? Okay, so I come here to where we have the Google. So what I want to do is, first thing is, you know what, let me put this in a box in my div, okay? Because I want to center those elements. Now let's start with styling this Google page. So there are many ways you can style this Google. I mean, you can go on and color each letter accordingly, but let's see how Google did it. So I can right click here and inspect. This is the page. Okay, so when I right click and inspect, I see they used an image. Okay, so let me also use an image. And from here, when I'm inspecting, I can see the image source. So I can just click on this link, and then I have the image. And then what I can do is I can save this image. So in my desktop, YouTube projects, Google clone, I can save that image over there. Okay. Now, instead of having the H1, what I'm going to do is I'm going to replace this with an image tag. An image tag is a self-closing tag, okay? This is what I mean by a self-closing tag. These other tags like button, it has the opening tag and the closing tag. Now, so source, when you add an image, you want to say, okay, where do you find that image? So that image is just right here in my root folder, and this is how it can be found. Now when I save and then I come here and refresh, boom, there you go. You have that Google, that little nice Google, the text, but it's now an image. Let's tell this further. You probably, if you're watching this, you probably are interested in how do you center a div. And so let's do this. What I can do here, so I have my div here. There are many ways to center a div. One of them is, and you can Google how to center a div. You can just, when you say Google center a div, I want to center this div in the whole page or whatever, or like its parent. So one way I could do this, I could give this div a class. You could give it a class, so an ID. It does. I like to use classes. Classes really help you to group similar divs and give them the same style. I could call this container Google icon container, anything really. You can give it any name, and then I copy the name. I actually forget when you're styling. Normally what I want to first do is everything. I like to remove the padding because I want to control my own padding, and then the margin also set to 0 because I don't like to when I'm working, so I remove the padding and on everything so that I am in control. I don't want unexpected padding that I don't know about, or margins. So that's the class. It's either this, again we'll find out, it's a dot for class, we'll see. So we can start to see if border, to see if our one pixel solid red, to see if our class name is really being applied. We can do that. Okay, so what we can do is, what I can do is, because I want to center this div within this div, so I can actually create a div here. Okay, this now just one way that I can center this div, and then this Google container, I can come and give it a display flex, and then justify content center, align items center. I think something like that. This should probably do it. So this kind of centers these elements. So what is it really centering? It's centering this other div here. Okay, and then because these items are in this div, they appear centered. So I can come and as you can see, this is the div being centered. This is our div right here. All the items in the div rather. Now when I look at this, the contents of this, okay, have been centered, but this is like, when you look at this, how the way they are being stacked is not how I want them stacked. I want this to be below the image, and then the buttons to be below this input type text. Now there are many ways you can do that. You could make them block elements, that's the input and the buttons. Or actually, while we are still on display flex, what I can show you is what the role, or how display flex works, how flex styles works. So I can come and give this other div a class, because I want to target to style it. I can call it maybe content. Again, the class name can be anything. So when I come here and I say content, I could give this a display flex. And then whenever you, by default, when you set the display of an item to be flex, the flex direction is going to be column, okay? Rather, it's going to be row. But what we want it to be column, because we want the items to be stacked one after the other. So now when I refresh, so you see you have the Google image here, and then you have this input, you have this button, and then you have this button. Now from here, the buttons are not stacked like that, they are stacked with each other. And why they're just next to each other? Why right now they are being displayed like this is because they're at this root, they're at this child level, they're like direct children of this div. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'll put them in the same parent, copy, cut them in that div. Okay, and then now when I come back here and I refresh, I have them like this. Okay, and then now let's maybe, okay, so far things are looking good. You have your Google, you have we have seen display flex, we have seen the Google search, I'm feeling lucky, etc. Now this is one way to center elements. I'm going to show you another way you can center elements. So if you just go to Google how to center a div, you're going to realize, pick any link that you want. Let's say we click on this. As you can see, there's the display flex style that we've talked about, and then as you can see, there's multiple ways. We've talked about display flex. When you can read any blog rather, you'll see that there's multiple ways. I will do another way, so I'm going to remove these styles. So what I will do is first give this position. I can give this position absolute. Now when I give it a position of absolute, it will collapse here, because when you give up an element position absolute, it's sort of floating in space until now. When you give when you define the position of relative or absolute, you want to define the starting point, the middle, rather the left or the right or the center. So I'm just bringing up this. So Google position absolute. As you so you can define the top and then the right. Now let's what we want to do. We want to center using position absolute. Okay. Now let's just absolute centering in. So what you want to do is, again, there's many ways you can do this. Position absolute, then say top 50, left 50. This is one of my favorite ways to center an element. So when I come here, I can apply these styles. Okay. So I define the top, I define the left, and then I apply that transform. Am I missing anything? Why is this complaining? It's complaining because of this comment. Delete this comment so that this is back. Okay. Now when I come here and refresh, so it's now centered in the page. And this centering is happening on the parent. Okay. So the parent is the body. So because this div right here, it's a direct child to the body. So the position absolute is being applied with respect to the body. Okay. Normally if you give position absolute and then you give position relative to the parent, you can look into that at your own free time, but that's just to sort of put you onto the different ways you can center an element. So it looks, pretty centered. There are also other ways you can try to center an element in its parent. Now let me try to style this input. So I can inspect this input right here, and I can see, okay, I see they use the text area instead of an input. It doesn't really matter. An input can work fine as well. So one of the things that I can see here, and because we are trying to create a clone, the beauty with web pages is you can always see when I inspect, I can always see the styles that were applied to an element. So for this text, as you can see, I can even turn on some of these. I can turn off some of the styles that are there, and then when I turn off the styles, I start seeing the element being brought back to its HTML without the styles. Okay. So what I want to do is I'm going to put this back, all these styles back, or I can just refresh also this page. When I refresh, okay, I don't want the dark theme on. I will be back here. So one, we can start by, okay, fun input. Now what I'm going to do for okay, this video, because I want to keep this video short, is I am going to ignore this little search icon and then the voice icon and all these icons. I'm just going to style the input and the buttons, and then maybe, because I want to keep the video short, so what I can, looking at this input, I can come and give this input a class or an ID, whatever. I can call this my search. Okay, then when I come here, so say search, and then within search I can, what do I want to do? I can start with the border. Okay, so looking at this border, so first of all I can see that there is a border shadow, there is some kind of shadow being applied at the border. Okay, when I look at this, I can see, so one, when I come and over, there's a shadow, but when I'm not hovering, there is no shadow, but there is a border definitely being applied, and then there is some form of border radius on this. So when, if I'm to inspect this, let me, okay, what do I want? I want this element here. So do you see this? This is actually a div. Now if I'm to look at this div, it's of display flex. So actually, you see how display flex works? This is how this icon is centered in this div. Okay, and then so this is the div. This div covers all of this. Okay, and then this div right here is the div with this icon. It has a height, it has everything, and then this div is this div here for the text area. Okay, and then this div is the last div that also has two divs, and then it has the icon, and then it has all this icon. So you can reverse engineer what was built here, but for now, you know, I will keep it simple, because I'm not trying to clone it like exactly. I can give it, let me give it a border of 1 pixel, solid gray, because it looks gray to me. I mean, give it some padding. So let's say padding all over is maybe 10 pixel. Refresh. Okay, and then maybe give it some border radius of, let's say, 5 pixels. Okay, and you know, it's looking neat, but I don't like this little, you see this little thing, the blue thing that comes here when I focus on this. Okay, so how do I remove it? You can always just Google this. Even me, I don't have how to remove border on input when I focus on it. This is a good question. For you, for your Google. Oh, okay. Okay. Let me just use Stack Overflow. So outline none. So you see here, so when I have input, so what I want is, because I'm using an input, so when we focus on it, I don't want any outline on it. So I'll just copy that and paste it here in my code. And then now when I refresh and when I come here, see, this is my input right now. I don't, none of that is there. Okay. And then let me come to these, my, you know, nice buttons. I can give them a class of buttons. I can give them a class of buttons, And then so these are my buttons. I want to make them display flex, and then I'll just leave a gap between them. So if I just set display flex, by default the direction is going to be, so if you see it's row, so they are stacked next to each other. Okay, then I just want to give them a margin top of maybe 10 pixels, so that right here there's some space between my buttons and then that. And then right here on display flex, maybe I can give them a gap of 10. So what I will do here is, so I can give this a class of, because I want to style the buttons, search button, and then I'll give the same class because I want to style these buttons exactly the same way, both of them. So I'll give them the same class. It's like, hey, you belong to the same kingdom, you know, like animal kingdom. So for my buttons, you see, so right here I have Google search, I'm feeling lucky, margin top, so the gap between them. First of all, I want them to be of each width 100%. I do not like the space they're occupying. Let's see the effect there, so they each will do that. I mean, I like my version of Google. I mean, here the buttons are sort of in, they're not from here to here, but mine are from here to here, and I'm kind of liking it. I dig it, so I'll continue with it. And then so what I'll do is I want to style them, you know, give them some body, make them look like they go to the gym because they're looking hella tiny. Give them some protein, put them on some protein diet by giving them some padding. Boom, there you go. You know, look at this styling. They have no border, so I can say border none. Yeah, I think I can do that. Can I? Be about to find out. So come here, refresh, border none. So inspect, no complaints so far. But you know, how are we feeling? We feel good. I mean, our website, our new Google, because we want to be the new Google. Our new Google is going to be using searching with AI. So when I look at this, I'm impressed with what I've done so far. Now for this, Google is offered in Kiswahili. I can also center this. There's many ways to center that. One way, what did I make it? Is it a paragraph? Okay, so I made it a paragraph. Now when I go let me see, if I applied text align center, what would happen? Okay, looks like if I apply text align center, so did you see what I did? When you click and inspect on an element, you can style it within the browser. However, when you refresh, that style that you did in the browser is temp, like it's temporary. So I can come here, give it a class. So what will I call you? I can give it a class, an ID. So Google is offered in Kiswahili. So this looks like it's a language thing to me. So I can say language, copy this, and then when I come here, so say language, and then Google, and then what did I do? Add text align center. So try to center the text, and then now when I refresh, this is what I have. I am feeling good with what I have so far. I like what I have so far. It's pretty close to this Google. I know Google is already shaking right now. They don't know the competition that's about to hit them with Google version Gideon. So I can always search for anything here, click my button, etc. Let me, before I go, these buttons, let me give them a pointer of not position. Is it cursor pointer? Cursor pointer. Okay, so what that means is, yep, you see before it has like this finger icon to show that it's clickable, just like here. Okay, so I'll stop here for now. I'm feeling good about this. It's a good start. Maybe there will be a part 2, maybe not, but I'm feeling good about this. Maybe I'll upload this for now and see how it works, how it goes.